I'll do about 3 more examples of using the first 4 rules of implication to help you derive a conclusion, and if you can, the conclusion's valid, okay? So let's go to this one here. I have this one written out just to save time here. If C then G is what we're trying to derive, right? Well, I'm thinking we're going to probably have to use hypothetical syllogism for the reasons I mentioned in the previous video. And I'm encouraged because I do see 2 conditionals. I see one here that's already isolated, ready to use, and I see this one up here, and I'm noticing if we can get this one by itself, I can use it with this to get this conclusion, right? If C then D, right? That's right up here, and then line 4, if D then G. This will give us if C then G, right? Because I could immediately see the skeleton behind it. I immediately saw if P then Q, if Q then R, if P then R. That's what we are trying to derive, right? Alright, so the trick is, let's get this by itself. And I notice, since this is a conditional, if I can get this by itself, right there, and actually, let's see, oh, okay, this is supposed to be an E. Right here, if I get what's in the brackets by itself, I can get this by itself. So I kind of know what we need to do. We need to get this by itself first, and this is part of a disjunction. But I notice with 1 and 2, I can get that by itself using DS. Because with DS, this here, you guys, this whole thing here is the P. This whole thing. This whole thing here is the Q. And right here, do you see how this is not P? Here it's not the case both A and B. Here it's not the case. So they're going to negate each other, right? You have 2 tildes here and 1. That's the same as, basically what's going on. They negate each other, okay? So look at it this way. If you had not D, and you go, it is not D, then that means they're opposite. And if it's not D, that means it's D, right? So double negation, 2 tildes, you can just write it as D with no tildes if you want. But for our purposes here, do you see, if this is not, it's not both A and B, this is, it's not both, they negate. 1 tilde, 2, so these will negate, and we can use disjunctive syllogism. These 2 will cancel out, and we can put down what's in those brackets, okay? And we don't even need the brackets anymore, because we have them here to not confuse it with the main operator and where the tilde goes, okay? It's not both E and F. If not both E and F, it's if not both E and F, then either if C, then D. Okay? And that would be lines 1 and 2, 1, 2, DS. Then for 6, we were not wasting our time. Here we can use line 5 with line 3 to get C or D. And that would be line 3 and 5, but we're using modus ponens, right? Let's do the P's and Q's again. This whole thing is the P. Here is the P. And this is the Q, right? So if P, then Q, here's P again. And notice you're used to this one being written first, the conditional, and then the antecedent second. The order doesn't matter. If you have if P, then Q, P, that equals Q. But if you have P, second premise, if P, then Q, guess what? That also equals Q. The order does not matter. Okay? The skeleton is still valid if you can put together a valid form. So 3, 5 modus ponens gives us this. And then 7 is we can use line 6, which is what we were working for, with line 4 to get what we need. We can get if C, then G from line 4 and line 6. 4, 6 using HS, and if we wrote that out, it would be line 6, if C, then D, with line 4, if D, then G. That gives us if C, then G. There's the P, there's the Q, there's the Q again, there's the R, this is the P, and that's the R. Okay, so that's how that example goes. And you would just end up with 3 lines, 1, 3 DS, 3, 5 MP, 4, 6 HS. Okay, let's do another one here. And let me just get this written down here. Okay, let's say we had, okay, if X, then if Y, then Z, 2 is X, 3 is Y, and we are trying to conclude or derive Z. Okay? So remember your first step, find what you're trying to derive in one of the premises. There it is. So this is all about working backwards for a strategy. How can we get Z all by itself? Well, if we had if Y, then Z all by itself, you see with this Y here, it's a no-brainer. We can get Z through modus ponens, right? You all see that there. So how can we get this by itself? Well, we could use lines 1 and 2. If P, then Q, P, therefore Q. So if we use lines 1 and 2, we can get if Y, then Z. So 1, 2, modus ponens is our justification. And then 5, we can use line 3 with line 4 to get Z. Line 3, line 4 gives us, with modus ponens, Z. Okay, if we wrote that out, if Y, then Z, line 3 is Y, that gives us Z. Okay, and so in 2 lines we could derive that, and both using modus ponens. Okay, let's do one more here to show you. What about if you had this? So this is 2. And premise 1 is either X or Y or Z. Premise 2 is not X. Premise 3, okay, let's draw that over. Line 2 is not X. Line 3, not Y. And that's Z. Okay. Let me just make sure I got that right. Either X or Y, then Z. Not X, not Y, therefore Z. Okay. All right, so we're trying to get Z, and there is Z right up there. Okay? So I can notice if we had Y or Z all by itself, let's say we can get there. Do you see with the not Y? It will cancel that out. We could get Z if we use DS. So this is pretty straightforward. How can we get this by itself? It looks like with 1 and 2 we can use DS as well. So line 1 and line 2 will give us Y or Z, right? Here's the P. This is the Q, either P or Q. Not P. They cancel out, therefore Q. Okay? And that would be 1, 2, disjunctive syllogism. And then 5, we're not wasting our time. We can use line 4 with line 3 to get Z. So Z, that would be 3, 4, ds. And remember, if you have not y, and then you have y or z, that's equal to z with ds. And it's the same as y or z and not y, that equals z. You remember, the order doesn't matter to the validity of a skeleton, and you have to be used to premises being reversed or twisted around, the order being topsy-turvy, and still seeing these skeletons. You remember? I here see P, Q, not P, Q. Same as P, Q, not P, Q, because ds is either P or Q, not P, therefore Q. So you got to see those skeletons. Okay, there's your last example, and hopefully this gets you in ship shape for section 7.1.